3, 2, 1. Welcome to Talking with Tom. Actually, mine is Tom tonight. My name is Edward McCarver. I'm usually in the role of co-host, but Tom unable to be with us tonight, so he, strangely enough, entrusted us to do the show tonight. I am joined by the co-host of the Squared Circle wrestling program seen in NHTV, John Zimmerman. John, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And it's very appropriate that you're with us tonight because our guest is someone who spent many years starting at the WWF, but now the WWE. It's Mark Hamilton. We have a lot of questions we want to get into, so we're just going to rip right into it.
Great.
Mark, just tell us a little bit. We were talking a little bit before we started taping. How did you get involved in the wrestling business to begin with?
Well, it's funny. Right out of college, I needed a job. I went to college for communications, for film, for video, for television. And my mom actually saw the internet wasn't huge back then, in 1997. We just started, and my mom saw an ad in the paper. It said Titan Sports looking for production assistants. And I said, Titan Sports? I love sports. I watch football, I love baseball, all that. I'm going to go for it. So I got an interview with Titan Sports, and I got to the interview, talking about myself, my background, and then they got to the question. The guy who interviewed me asked me, and do you know about the WWF? Are you a fan? Were you a fan growing up? And I said, yeah, as a kid I was. Why do you ask? He's like, well, if you're going to work for the WWF, I just want to know if you know the background. I said,
you did not know?
I didn't even know it was for the WWF. I thought it was Titan Sports. I didn't know what it was. Like I said, there was no really internet. I didn't do any research. It was my first interview ever, and I kind of faked it till I made them say, oh yeah, WWF. Oh, of course. Love it. Yeah, love it. So I got the job. I fooled my way through the through the interview a little bit. Got the job. Fake it till you make it. That's what I say.
How long did the interview last?
It lasted about 45 minutes, and then I got a call on my way home and said I was hired.
Wow.
So yeah, on my way home, and at the time I was the 5th production assistant hired. There was only 5. Now there's over 40, but it was smaller back then. It was right before the Attitude Era began, when we kind of on a little downswing right before the Stone Cold Era and the Attitude Era began. So that's how I got started, and I was a PA, like I said, starting in 1997, and I kind of rose up the ranks. But we can get, I guess, a little.
Yeah, if you could, John, if I may. What were your duties as a production assistant? Your first month is part of Titan Sports. Run us through a typical day.
Well, there was no typical day. No typical day in the WWF back then. I was just going nuts. I knew nothing. I thought I owned the world. I thought I knew everything. I majored in communications. I knew everything there was, like your camera guy over there. But I didn't know a thing. Like, I had to learn everything. I didn't know, and at that time I didn't know anything about. I knew wrestling in the mid '80s. I was a big fan. But I didn't know any of the regional wrestlers, so I had to learn every single wrestler. I had to learn who they all were. A roster of about 100 at the time. The little guys up to the mid-card guys, up to the stars. I had to learn all that. I had to learn match psychology, match philosophy. I had to learn all the shows. There's a ton of shows. There was like Shotgun Saturday Night. All these different back then. All these shows back then. Live Wire. All that kind of stuff. So I started on a show, Shotgun Saturday Night. I started on that show, and I was just a production assistant. We did, I would pull footage and pull things from my producer, and I would go on the road and shoot little things with the camera, little B-roll that we would put into shows. And I was just doing something different every day, just learning about the company, really.
Did you go to any type of training and see the wrestlers actually working out?
No.
And get that
well, it's funny. They came to our studio on Hamilton Ave in Stamford. We had a ring set up there, so every now and then they would come there to train and talk, and I'd see these big guys in the in the studio, and it's amazing. Back then it was actually, I saw Bret Hart right before he left. People like that. It was just it was just amazing to see those guys. A lot of the older time guys who were still hanging around. I met Gorilla Monsoon. All those kind of guys being there. It was phenomenal, because I remember those guys back when I was in the '80s, and my dad's favorite was Gorilla Monsoon. So to actually meet him and see him was kind of a cool thing for me.
Yeah, and actually I've probably got a ton of questions I could probably ask off the top of my head, because when my son was, my son is 32 now.
Right.
But we were the Gorilla Monsoon, George the Animal Steel.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, me and my dad used to make
Lou Albano.
masks, and we used to actually wrestle in my living room. When that would lift me up, I get so mad, I couldn't do anything. We'd make masks. It was great. I mean, and so just at that perspective, it really brought me back to the 80s, and it was a great thing to be a part of. And again, I wasn't a big wrestling fan when I joined. I was a fan of production and storytelling, and that's really what WWE kind of when it morphed. You know, starting the Attitude Era, we really started the storytelling and got away from just the wrestling aspect, and it was more storytelling. As it is today, it's more of a storytelling, more of a male soap opera, if you will, than just two guys in a ring.
We have heard that too.
Yeah.
We're talking with Mark Hamilton, who worked with the WWF, now the WWE, from 1997 to 2015, and talk a little bit about the writing, if you would. As a wrestling fan from the 80s,
Right.
you know, I would tune on and see a match. You know, Howard Finkel would introduce
the first employee of WWE, of WWF, Howard Finkel.
Oh, really?
He's still there, yes.
Still North Haven, isn't he? Howard Finkel?
I know he's local. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he lives.
But nowadays, when I tune into a match, I get more dialogue than
A lot more dialogue.
Match.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how that evolved?
Well, that evolved because Vince McMahon, he wanted, it was, you know, back in the 80s and even before that, it was just wrestling. There was there was not a lot of emotion involved. I mean, there was some, but it wasn't that soap opera type deal. You know, as things evolved, more women started watching. The audience got a lot smarter. People wanted more from the television. It wasn't the innocence of the 80s. People just good guy versus bad guy. They wanted shades of gray a little bit, you know. So, and now there are shades of gray. You know, there you have John Cena. Half the audience loves him, boos him. Half the audience loves him, half the audience boos him. That wasn't in the 80s. No one was booing Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? Everyone cheered Hulk Hogan. You know, no, there wasn't these bad guys that you loved to hate. You just hated them. You know, you wanted to get the whole thing to destroy all of them. So we, you know, as you know, when I was there, you know, even from '97 to 2015, the dialogue got maybe from 15 minutes a show. Now it's half the show. I mean, every time you turn on Raw, you know, you're starting off with a half-hour dialogue, setting up the whole show, which some people think it's too much. You know, some people.
That was my next question. The fans' reaction to it.
Yeah, it depends. You know, it's a fine line.
I think it's on the performer. You know,
Right.
If the performer is delivering it as Stone Cold did, you know, I mean, you can stand there and watch Stone Cold read the phone book.
Or The Rock,
Or The Rock.
or John Cena. John Cena was not I don't think he's the greatest wrestler ever, but he can talk on the mic. To be a superstar in WWE, you do not have to wrestle great. You have to be an entertainer and you have to talk amazingly well, which Stone Cold demonstrated, which The Rock demonstrated, which John Cena, which Hulk Hogan demonstrated. He was the first one. Hulk Hogan, a great wrestler. No, he wasn't a Shawn Michaels type of wrestler. He was not. He had two moves.
Right.
You know, he dropped the boot. You know, and that was, and he hulked up, but he could talk and entertain, right? And he had a great gimmick, and people loved to get behind him. And that's what you need to make it in the business. You have to talk. You know, unless you have a manager who can talk for you, like a Brock Lesnar did, or you know, like a Paul Heyman guy, you get on him, or a Goldberg or things like that.
Which even an independent.
Completely say that we're missing that in today's product.
Right.
I don't know if it's a budgetary question or just nobody out there. But we go back when I was a kid, Captain Lou Albano.
Yes.
You know, and you had Freddie Blassie, and you had the Grand Wizard going back a little further,
Yeah.
and even Scary Sherry would come out,
Yeah.
and God bless his Bobby the Brain
Bobby
Heenan.
Heenan was the greatest of all time.
Yeah, it was the greatest ball. And you had a guy like King Kong Bundy who was an imposing figure but couldn't talk to save his life. And you had
a mouthpiece though.
You had somebody putting them
You
over.
need that.
And we don't have as many today.
Not as many managers anymore.
Right.
I think because they don't need them. I think because we're bringing these superstars up to be able to talk and to talk on their own. You know, I mean, it used to just be the regular normal wrestler would be this big guy with huge biceps. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really not. And I think Shawn Michaels really started that. I mean, Shawn Michaels was a small guy. But I think he was one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen in person. Shawn Michaels, the greatest wrestler I've ever seen.
The Heartbreak Kid?
Yeah, I think the greatest wrestler I've ever seen. He did things that were just amazing, and he really started the flips off the rope, and he had the great ladder match, the WrestleMania 12, was it? Or WrestleMania 10? WrestleMania 10.
Yeah.
12 was the Iron Man match, which was a thing that I can talk about in a little bit, but I think if you do ask me what my favorite match is all the time, I might have something to say about that. I mean, people like that, you know, they're Rey Mysterio, another, you know, great superstar who just flips and all that. Not that huge guy. I mean, Rey Mysterio, 5'8", something like that, really small. And these small guys, people get behind. People get behind the underdogs. You know, it's not just the big guys like the Andre the Giants that were, the King Kong Bundys that were. It's these littler guys.
Now,
you know?
is there any type of acting, coaching, or lessons involved?
They do a little bit, yeah. They definitely go to promo. So I mean, if you watch Tough Enough, that's pretty much you know what they do on television. You know, they got to learn. It's the hardest job in entertainment, I think. First of all, you're on the road over 250 days a year. There's no off season. It's crazy. These guys. I mean, people say it's fake. It's not fake. The injuries are not fake. What they do in the ring is not fake. You know, they're real. They're not. It's not you know trick photography when they're flipping off the rope or they're hurting themselves. Plus, they have to talk. In baseball and football, these guys don't have to talk constantly and act. You know, but in WWE, you do. You have to be an actor and you have to be an athlete.
What's the, and you may have touched upon it already, but what is the biggest misconception about professional
That it's fake.
wrestling?
It's not fake. I mean, portions of it maybe there's some outcomes that are determined that Vince has said aloud, but that's it. And that's the least. It doesn't even matter who wins. It matters the story, the ride you take. You know, as you know, and there's these rides are amazing. Just the entrance, the Undertaker's entrance is like 4 minutes long. That's not even the match, and people love to see that spectacle. Like, and that's amazing. I mean, think about the Undertaker, a match with the Undertaker. 8 minutes of it is entrances. 8 minutes of it is after the match. Right. And a lot of it is just that mystique. The lights go down, you hear that first, and he comes out, and then the ending, you know, that's half the match. You know, the actual pin, which is the predetermined outcome, is what? 5 seconds of the actual thing. So you're saying 5 seconds is fake and the rest is real? You know, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Tell me that was your production. His whole entrance, right?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. I really don't know. That was long before I was there. I mean, what 91 did he start? Survivor Series 91, I think he entered or something like that.
1990.
I want to say, I don't know why.
90 Survivor Series. So I mean, that's the
Right here in Hartford, actually.
Yeah, right in here in Hartford, his first entrance. And
I was there.
And that's
Still got the program and the stuff.
and that's almost 3 decades of doing what he did and doing it so great. You know, I mean, it's insane.
Again, we're talking to Mark Hamilton, who spent over 20 years in the WWE, WWF. You mentioned we're right here in Connecticut, so you should give a plug to Tom Schaffer. We're here at American Steam Cheeseburgers at 92 Quinnipiac Street.
Best cheeseburgers around. I could hear all
Easily.
Love them.
That's how we actually got connected. So we thank Tom and American Steve.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
I wanted to tell us this story. You mentioned about the good guys and the bad guys, and I think John, I may have told you this story before, and you may know it, but when Gorgeous George was wrestling, a very young, wasn't even known as Muhammad Ali at the time, Cassius Clay, went to see Gorgeous George, and Gorgeous George came in the ring, and of course, his catch was, I am the greatest wrestler. And people would flock the arenas to see him lose. So young Cassius at the time took that, with I am the greatest. And then, as they say, the rest is history.
Yes,
Am I showing my age doing Gorgeous George here?
No, Gorgeous George is very prevalent. I mean, we've done a lot of production on Gorgeous George recently. You know, the last year I was there, they were working on a production on Gorgeous George. I never did see it, but he was a flamboyant character. I mean, he was the first flamboyant bad guy there was. You know.
And I think Superstar Billy Graham kind of picked up the mantle there. And to me, maybe because it's my age, Superstar Billy Graham was the one with the Tower of Power, just sweet and sour, that whole almost rap, really. And Hogan kind of picked up on it after that. But to me, like the originator was Superstar Billy Graham. Even though he had the Grand Wizard, he kind of pushed him aside and said, and gave it his own.
Took the reins,
The female wrestlers now that they call the divas. Now
Not
back
anymore.
Not anymore. Oh, they
Superstars now.
Superstar. Okay. Now back in the '80s, I can only name 2: the Fabulous Moolah, and Wendy Richter.
Yep. Now
Bomb Angels, maybe.
Again, more women watch now. You know, they do. I mean, a lot of women watch. men watch, obviously, and they want to see women. And there are, women get into it. They love. I mean, Trish Stratus, Lita. I mean, when I was there, those, they were huge. And now we have, we don't just have WWE, the show, Raw and SmackDown. We had Total Divas, and we have all these other shows that we need women for. And as the talking became more prevalent and not just watching, what's more dramatic than relationships? And how are you going to have relationships with no women at all? You need that jealousy factor. You need women into the mix. And I think that's what started.
I don't know which WrestleMania.
George Steele's taking Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth was the queen. I mean, come on.
Yes,
Miss
and
Elizabeth,
that's
WrestleMania 7, they fought, when she came running down, it was the Macho Man, and it was the whole thing. I mean,
And you see people crying, they were giving shots and people were crying in the audience.
Yes.
I thought it was awesome.
Yes.
So WrestleMania?
I think that was
WrestleMania 7.
one of the turning points.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, Miss Elizabeth, yeah, I mean, that was amazing. Randy held her on her, on the shoulder and the whole thing. And again, like, what's better than WWE than a WWE wedding, right? We only had one wedding that didn't involve a female. You know what that was?
Billy Gunn.
Yes, Billy Gunn. Yes, exactly. 2 men married. Yes, but most of the women. I mean, all these weddings. You have, you have the Kane. The Kane with Stephanie McMahon, Triple H wedding. What gets better than that, right? So again, we wouldn't have all these weddings without all these women in the sport, and they are amazing athletes. Amazing.
I'm trying to think. You mentioned and you may remember this because no, maybe it wasn't nice, but it was Tuesday Night Titans. Do you remember
That was before
Tuesday?
my time.
Oh, but they had a wedding, and it was a Canadian wrestler, Paul Volk.
Nikolai Volkov is the only one
No,
I know.
no, Paul. He was from
Orndorff?
Canada.
No. Well, I don't remember him getting married.
But I remember George the Animal Steele was in the wedding party. They were walking him down the aisle.
No wedding goes smoothly in the WWE.
No. You're
it's
just waiting
wrestling
for
disaster.
right. You're waiting for somebody to get the cake in the face.
Exactly.
Again, we're talking with Mark Hamilton, who spent many years with the WWE. When did it go from WWF to WWE?
2002. Our slogan was "Get the F out." That was our slogan. What happened was, I think what the catalyst was for the World Wildlife Fund was going to, I think they were going to Australia, and they had, there was this big billboard, WWF coming to Australia, WWF coming to Australia. So it was this little plane, the World Wildlife Fund enters, and all these crazy fans. And that really was a catalyst to get the F out, and that was probably the most difficult. That and the XFL were the 2 biggest difficult things that I experienced when I was at WWE, WWF/WWE. We had to losing the name of a company is a difficult thing. I mean, it's a difficult thing and a tough thing to do. First of all, to come up with a new name, and second of all, to change your branding on everything, and also, not be able to show any WWF logos in programming. And the Attitude Era, which was what a lot of people want to see. Back then we had to blur all the logos and not showing WWFs. And we've gotten better now because we did reach a deal, but it was tough losing our name. That was a tough deal.
Were and you just mentioned that, I completely forgotten about
Right.
the XFL.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Big thing now on
tell us.
ESPN.
Yes, the XFL was a difficult couple months. Did you see the 33rd?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
We actually went to the exhibit in New York.
And that was, that was a great time, a very exciting time, and it went to a very not exciting time very quickly.
But then the
Because
first year, weren't the ratings?
first game.
the first game.
We got,
Oh.
they exploded. We had like a 10 or something. Like millions and millions of people watched it, and it was great. It was all this excitement, but it just didn't catch on. It wasn't what we promised them. It wasn't smash mouth football. It wasn't these people, these athletes were not actors, and we needed them to be.
I mean, instead of flipping the coin, having the players do a 50-yard dash.
Who got the ball, and someone got injured on the first one.
Yeah.
And got out of the game. Yes, so things like that. But and if you watch the show, I highly recommend the for 30. You'll see the innovative, things
Yes,
we did with the XFL, with the camera, the sky cam like that, with the microphones on the field. A lot of the things that the NFL implements.
And I
today.
do remember, who was the signature player? He hated.
Yeah.
Who I think later on went on to the NFL, didn't he?
There was that,
Briefly?
and there was the quarterback for the Steelers, Maddox. Tommy Maddox.
Yes.
He was the other one. Yeah.
But
those-
now today, I mean, you've got the LA Kiss,
Yeah.
Gene Simmons and Paul Staley own a team.
Oh, yeah.
And John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi desperately wants a team, right?
Right, wants to get a team, and
Yes.
was working on one in Vegas. But,
You have one for a year.
Yeah, he had it for a year, but I mean, the intensity and involvement is still here.
Right.
You know, I mean, and it started with you guys.
Started with the XFL. I mean,
day one.
Well, you can relate it. I mean, he tried, Vince McMahon, a lot of the stuff that was in WWF, he tried to bring over to the XFL, and he did. It just, we didn't, I mean, the other thing was, we just got done the Super Bowl, now in February, starting a whole new league, it's tough, and they all did it in a year. I mean, in a year.
Right.
That's what Vince, when he says, let's go, we go. You know, and it was a crazy, crazy time, but I'm happy to be a part of that. To create like packages and cold opens and stuff for those games.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool thing. To just not do wrestling for a little bit, and football, which is actually another one of my loves, was a cool, very cool thing to do.
Now, as fans, I mean, we see and we have the conception that Vince is like the guy, like everything it comes from him. How, if you can, how much true is that?
Vince
or
has
is
his
it-
things
or
in
is it
everything.
collective.
No, it's very collective. I mean, Vince is the guy because there needs to be a head guy. There needs to be the guy in charge, and he is the guy in charge. He's very hands-on. You know, when they're writing Raw, when they're going through Raw, he has his hands in everything. He meets with the writers. He knows every step of the game. But there's a lot of employees at WWE, and it doesn't happen without all of them. You know, Vince's daughter, who I worked very closely with, Stephanie McMahon, is amazing, you know, and Paul Levesque, his son-in-law, is married to Stephanie. He's the head of talent, and works with all the talent. So Vince has his people in place that do a lot of work for him, and it wouldn't run without them. You know, but you're not going to talk about 20 guys. You know, you're going to talk about one guy. Vince is the famous guy, and you know, when he's not there anymore, there's going to be Stephanie and Paul and Shane. You know,
And he's also, if I'm not mistaken, second generation, because wasn't there a Vince
his
McMahon
father.
senior?
Yes. Yep. His
And I don't know why I
started it all.
Again, I'm
the
showing my...
WWF.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right.
And he
With the Bastine brothers
Yep.
and the fabulous Kangaroos from
Ray
Australia.
Sax.
Ray Sax Calhoun, yes.
And then Vince took it to another level. You know, Vince took it to that other level. Him and, I mean, pretty much what, 83, 82, 83 really started when Hulk Hogan and all that. When he beat the Iron Sheik to win the title and Hulkamania was here and all that stuff. And that was it. You know, him and Hulk really brought it up. I mean, it's funny, they're swells, right? I mean, in the mid-80s it was huge, late 80s huge, then the early 90s, and we can get into the Monday Night Wars and all that, where, you know, Ted Turner took over and we kind of slid down, and then we were nothing, and then we just had to get back to basics and really just write incredible content. And that was a crazy time. That was probably the craziest time to be there when I started, from 97 to 2000, where we went from, it was WCW was here and WWF was here, and then we kind of did the switch, and they were trying to tell us, Eric Bischoff would try to break what's going on in WWF. This is what's going to happen tonight, and more people they said, the famous thing was Mick Foley's going to win the title tonight, and more people turned in than ever to watch that happen, and we invaded WCW with the DX and all that. Amazing. I mean, I think that's when WWF was at the best because it had competition, right? Now it doesn't have the competition.
Right.
Competition makes you better.
Yes.
Right? You have
Somebody
to be
breathing
better, you
down
have to
your
write
neck,
better.
right?
Yeah.
It's
You
gonna
have
make
to
it run a little
right.
further,
If you
a little
don't
harder.
start a show hot, like now we can have 30 minutes of dialogue before we get hot because there's no one else on. They're really the only game in town. Before, you had to enthrall them right away or they're going to switch to WCW. And I think that's when we were at the best.
And
my
no,
opinion.
and no slight to the WWF or WWE now, but you're right. I mean, there is no competition. No one breathing down your neck to make you innovative and better or
Right.
do anything. And really, there's nobody on the horizon. I mean, the other guy is not even a close second. I'd rather go to an independent show than see the other guy that's
Right.
out there. The independent guys are really trying to step up their game and get noticed.
Is there a talent competition from the MMA? I'm a boxing fan.
Right, yeah.
And all the American heavyweights aren't taking up the sweet science. I think they're all going to the MMA.
Right.
I can't even mention, I don't even know who the heavyweight championships are. I think it's Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah, I'm not big into the MMA actually, but yeah, I mean there were a couple qualities. I mean Brock Lesnar was very successful there, and it was amazing. And a lot of people didn't think he would because WWF. How's he going to go to MMA? It's a totally different thing. And I mean it's amazing how successful. I mean CM Punk, but it's just amazing. I mean, I think people, these superstars in WWE, they want to do it for real and see what they can do in MMA.
Bobby Lashley's another.
Yeah, Lashley, exactly, and they've done quite well. So it's because they're very athletic. They're doing everything. They're just doing it a little harder at the end.
I know you're out of it now, but wasn't there a story that Ronda Rousey was going to maybe
Yes.
dabble in
Yeah, and there was.
Anything
And
you
I
can
never
tell us
came to
about
fruition.
that?
I wasn't really into that. That was kind of when I was on my way out. So I know we really. I mean, she was. She came out in WrestleMania 30. The whole Rock. You know, she came out and did a thing with Stephanie, which was great, and that exploded. And I think that was the catalyst for that because that was people's favorite moment of that WrestleMania. That Ronda Rousey was there, and I think that's what kind of started. I don't know whatever happened to that. Why it didn't really come to fruition.
We're talking with Mark Hamilton, telling us about his years in the WWF, WWE, from 1997 to 2000.
End of 2015, very end. Yes.
15. Mickey Rourke's movie.
Yes.
The Wrestler.
Great movie.
In your opinion, realistic? It was an awesome movie.
He based that character on Ric Flair.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes,
Okay.
based on Ric Flair's talkings with Ric Flair. As far, a lot of it's on based on Ric Flair. So I think a lot of it's a lot of what people I think go through. It's a tough life, and I mean, I was a fan of the movie. I wish we produced that movie, which we can get into our.
We should have got
Yeah, that's great.
But and Bruce Springsteen's my favorite songwriter. He wrote The Wrestler for that movie, which is also a great song. Very. I mean, I can't speak because I'm not a wrestler myself, but I do know that he loosely based on Ric Flair. So for that accuracy, and I think it was Mickey Rourke's greatest role.
Yeah,
I agree.
And we do a lot of independent shows, and I do see in the backs, the guys in the back, especially the guys that were, at that level at one point, and now are just wrestling in a VFW hall.
Right. It's
Compared to
sad.
the guys coming up, and then, and I won't give it away, but there was one last week, and he came in and wanted, was looking for that pop in the former glory, and he didn't quite get the pop that he was expecting. He was kind of disappointed.
Yeah,
and his moment had already happened. And I see a lot of the younger guys coming up, and my other son is actually training and wants to be John Cena.
Okay.
So
Good to aspire. John Cena is a great. He's not just a great performer; he's a great person.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's just a great guy. I mean, he's one of my favorites. By the way, if you do watch The Wrestler, make sure you watch the deli counter scene where he's cutting meat. It's not the only thing he cuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great scene in that.
The Rock, John Cena have gone on to have pretty good film careers. I'm sure there are other.
The Rock is the #1 box office here. I mean, he gets paid the most per movie than any other star.
I think he has HBO.
And he's got the HBO show as well. Yeah, which is a great show.
Did that surprise you?
No, not with The Rock. I mean, he's just, and he's actually I mean, I think John Cena's great too. Have you seen Trainwreck? The movie Trainwreck? He's very funny in that.
Yes.
He's very funny. He hasn't shown that he can carry a movie yet, but he's been very good in supporting roles. I think, I think he can be Mark Wahlberg's body double. I think they look a lot alike. He's done a lot of things with that. The Rock, it didn't really surprise me. He was a star from Jump Street. I mean, he was amazing. No one was better than him on the mic. I mean, he can just ad-lib 15 minutes. The way he can, go off on his own. He can hold the crowd in the palm of his hand. I was not surprised with that.
It's charisma.
I was not surprised. Yeah.
It's charisma.
Yeah.
And he also has.
And he's got the look too. The women love him. I mean, he's a very handsome guy. All the women love him. My wife loves him. She tells me a lot of times. And he's just amazing. He's got the charisma. I mean, whether he's a good guy, whether he's a bad guy, people love him. They're just drawn to him. He's got that thing that you can't explain.
And he comes from wrestling royalty, doesn't he?
Yes, he's a third generation.
Yeah.
Generation.
Yep.
I think, was his grandfather Peter Maivia?
Yes. High Chief.
Yep.
You mentioned WWE Productions. How did that? Were you involved in that? How did that come about?
Not as much. That was studios. So yeah, we started producing films. I mean, remember See No Evil with Kane? We did, and obviously The Marine with John Cena. We've done a few others.
I knew the Marine 5 came out today.
The Marine
Matter of
5.
fact,
Marine
just
5.
came out today.
We're almost at the pace of the Police Academy. I think Police Academy is like 7. So we keep going with those. No, I mean, it came because we did have this great talent. People are writing scripts, and we thought we could. I think they thought they could do productions, which, like I said, which would produce movies like The Wrestler, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think our stars are very talented, and I think they do very well, like in movies like Trainwreck, what John Cena did, and things like that are great. But it's tough for them. I mean, again, they're traveling over 250 days a year, plus they got to do a movie thing. It's not easy to do, and they do very well.
There is no off season.
There's no off season. No, and other than John, Batista actually, he's
huge right now.
Huge right now, exactly.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2, and he was great, I thought, in the first one, and he's a big part of the second one, as it looks like in the previews.
He got lucky because he was one of those guys that tried MMA, didn't do very well.
Didn't do very well.
So he got lucky with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, a very good role for him.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to happen more and more because I think, where you can see our guys are already stars on television. They're already memorizing lines. They're already in front of an audience. They already have that charisma. I think it's kind of a natural progression.
And,
So
you said Batista. Batista's return was one of the few that I've witnessed that he wasn't like loved.
So, yeah.
For whatever reason, that it just didn't go very well.
Not like John Cena's or Triple H's or anything like that. I mean, Triple H, I remember Triple H returning in the Garden in 2002 when he returned from the surgery he had back then was amazing. It was one of the greatest returns I ever saw. John Cena returned in the Garden, which was amazing. He returned super early, I wish CM Punk would, CM Punk would be amazing. I mean, CM Punk, that one show, when he was on the mics, probably one of the greatest things I've seen in the last 10 years.
We're talking with Mark Hamilton, talking about his years in the WWE, WWF. Back in the 80s and the early 90s, when my son was growing up, there were 4 big events.
Yes.
WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor, and Royal Rumble.
Then they added King of the Ring, and there was,
Now it seems like every other week. Is it oversaturated?
For me, I think there's a little too much. I think, there is a demand for, again, with the network especially, that was another big thing that we had actually when I was there, the WWE network. So there is, but the issue with back then, you had so many more weeks. They were more special, right? If Christmas happens once a year, Christmas happened every month.
We were counting the days till WrestleMania.
Right, exactly.
And I feel that way.
Right. Is it a special? If there's one every single month or every 4 weeks, probably not. Nothing's gonna be a special if it happens every 4 weeks, I think. And it's less of a build, right? So you don't have, those 2 months to really build to an incredible match. You have 3 weeks to build to a match. But I mean, it is, there's demand. People still watch it and all that. Personally, if it was me, I would probably have, I would probably have like a cliffhanger or an off season. Maybe you end in, I don't know, you end after WrestleMania. And you have nothing for no big event for a few months, and then you start again because it's like after WrestleMania it's so big, and then you have another one 3 weeks later. Let it go a little bit and then build again. That's what I would do, but I'm not in charge. I'm not even there anymore, so I can't. Maybe I'll send it.
What was the best match you saw on your?
The Iron Man match. The Iron Man match. Iron Man match. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 12. That was probably the greatest match I've ever seen. It was the first Iron Man match first. It was 2 great wrestlers. I mean, 2 of the greatest of their time.
Is that a steel cage?
No, Iron Man match is a 60-minute match. Whoever has the most pinfalls after 60 minutes wins.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever seen anything like it before. It was a 60-minute straight match, and Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were 2 of the greatest at the time, and it was just an amazing match to see that go back and forth that long. The most awe-shocking thing I've ever seen was the Hell in a Cell Undertaker Foley Mankind match, which was insane. I'll never forget that. But as far as a match, and as far as match psychology and the story of a match and ebbs and flows, it's got to be the Iron Man match.
Was there ever a match that you wanted to see?
That I want us to see.
More as a fan, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it would be, it would have been Goldberg, Price, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was like when I was coming up, he was my guy. Is he clapping right there?
Never stun you?
No, never stunned me. I think, he's what let me stay there for that long because he made WWF a success again. When it was down, when Bret Hart left and, when it was really, we had nothing. And, Stone Cold, it's funny, in '97 when he made a success again, he didn't even wrestle a match for 6 months. He just came out and talked. Talked about talking and charisma. I mean, he didn't wrestle one match for 6 months, and yet it just skyrocketed.
Was that the time he was messing around with Kurt Angle?
That was a little before that, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, that was
Kurt Angle with the little hat.
The hat, and Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Hubbard, and all that, yeah. And I mean, hysterical. Kurt Angle was awesome. He was amazing. But Stone Cold it was a little before that. I mean, I think there was the whole Vince Austin thing. That was the biggest thing, right? Yeah, boss versus employee type thing, and everyone related to that. Who doesn't hate their boss? Who don't want to stun their boss? Who doesn't want to tell their boss to F you? Right, exactly. All that was amazing, and then who could forget the milk truck with Angle? But I think that was he was my favorite thing, and that was just amazing to see him wrestle any of today's superstars would just be amazing.
And Angle just got into the Hall of Fame.
Yes,
last month.
well deserved.
And who's not in the Hall of Fame, in your opinion?
Well, it would have been Macho Man, but I mean, I think now that I don't really know if there's one superstar. What are you guys thinking about? Anybody? Who's not in the
Hall of Fame that should be?
I don't know. Macho Man was the guy, and he's now I think now where he should be. But Macho Man was the one guy who I thought should have been in a long time ago.
We've got just a couple minutes to go before
that went fast.
Before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
It was fun. Boxing fans always talk about, could Joe Louis beat Muhammad Ali?
Right.
Could Jack Dempsey beat Rocky Marciano? How would Nature Boy Buddy Rogers do against The Undertaker or Gorgeous George? I mean, is there a dream match you would?
Dream match. But, I don't know. I always thought Hulk Hogan versus John Cena would be a dream match.
Yeah.
That would be a great dream match. Two of the, that would be an awesome dream match. What else? Let's see. Andre the Giant versus the Big Show.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant was my favorite growing up. I always liked the big guys because I was so small and scrawny growing up. I always related to the really big guys. So Andre the Giant was my favorite. To see like two big guys collide would be kind of cool.
I just showed my son the Andre the Giant Chuck Wepner wrestler versus boxer thing, because the Chuck Wepner movie is coming out next week.
Yeah.
Well, what about Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show? That was amazing. When Floyd Mayweather, I love that.
Tyson Stone Cold.
Tyson Stone Cold was one of the greatest things.
Yeah, much bigger than that. Tyson was a beast at the time.
Tyson was a beast. I mean, it was.
Who won?
No, so it was Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 14. Iron Mike Tyson was a special enforcer, and at the end, he, everyone thought he was with Shawn Michaels, and then he kind of went with Stone Cold, I think. That was
wasn't Ali a referee during? Was it WrestleMania?
Ali was WrestleMania 1, was the first WrestleMania. Yeah, Liberace was there. Ali was there. Mr. T was in WrestleMania 1. Exactly. Yeah. All that stuff. Because Mr. T and Hulk Hogan were in the movie together. Were in Rocky 3 together, and that's what started that.
Clubber Lang.
Yes.
Clubber Lang. Yes.
Which I remember from Ted.
Right.
Ted. Yes, exactly.
Well, Mark, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
we probably could stay for
do
days.
Yeah,
here.
we'll talk for a while. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Please come back.
Oh, definitely. Thanks for having me. Thank you. It's been great.
And maybe we'll arrange for Tom to stay away. We'll lock him in the closet.
Right. Leave Tom at home again. This has been Talking Without Tom.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do part 2 with Tom.
Yes.
We'll look forward to that. All right, so again, Talking with Tom will be back next month. He's actually got an announcement. He's keeping it under wraps now. He's going to make an announcement. So stay tuned for that. And again, don't forget for the best wrestling on public access, NHTV, The Squared Circle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Or go to The Squared Circle, YouTube.
Yep. Facebook.
I think that's what they call it, Facebook. So. All right, so for John Zimmerman, Mark Hamilton, this is Edward McCarver. Thank you for watching and have a good night.
Thank you.